This Choircast podcast is brought to you by High Minds. Join host Andy Colenso and Matthew J. DiStefano as they tackle culture, justice, spirituality, and all the big questions shaping our world. High Minds isn't about talking points or hot takes. It's about deep, insightful conversation that inspires and challenges. Tune in to explore new angles, question the status quo, and elevate your thinking. Listen to High Minds wherever you get your podcasts.
Western Christianity has spent the last 2,000 years telling everyone they're separated from God.
This is Not Church with John and Nat Turney and Bethany Shea.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast. My name is Nat Turney. As always, I'm joined by my brother, John. Say hi, John.
Hi, John.
And as always, well, I say as always, it hasn't always been this way. As of late, how long has it been, Bethany? Has it been a year?
I think it's been almost a year that I've been.
Yeah, so I guess I can say as always. I mean, I don't have any intentions of it not being that way. But we are also joined by the lovely and the loquacious Bethany Shea. Say, what's up, Bethany?
Hi, friends.
Yeah, no,
always the rebellious one.
I got the one time when you I caught you off guard too. Well, this is the podcast that we have entitled "This Is Not Church." We should have said "This is not church." God damn it, it's a podcast. But as we like to say, because if it was church, you would have left by now, and John would be gone, and Bethany would be back in the what do you call the room where people hang out after church?
There's a narthex. There's a sacristy. I don't know.
They're like official. Like what did non-denoms like me call it? Like the fellowship hall. Bethany will be in the fellowship hall serving up cookies and root beer floats and begging you to say, just give it one more chance. Just come on.
I don't know, man. I just preach really good sermons, and that's usually what keeps people around. So that and like the community that's just like willing to be raw and honest with each other. It's pretty awesome.
It's amazing. But then you use words like sacristy and just blow that whole thing out of the water. I don't know who you're fooling here, but whatever. Them highfalutin words. But as always, we're so glad that you're here, and we have an amazing guest. And we always say that, and it's always true, because quite frankly, we are beyond privileged to get to have conversations with some of the most interesting people in the world, some of whom you've never heard of, some of whom you might have. But every single time we have an interview with anybody, I'm just always blown away by how much I learn. How much my mind is expanded and blown, and every once in a while, how much I get pissed off, which is great. I love being pissed off. Since the election, it's pretty much my daily state of mind. Just what degree of pissed off am I? Am I really, really agitated, or am I just sort of mildly sort of throbbing with anger? But we can talk about that. Today we have the honor. John would probably push back and say, what? No, it's an honor. It really is to have John Fugelsang here. Let me read you a little bit about him in case you don't know. But John Fugelsang, hey, we're going to start with, he's been murdered on CSI and picketed by Westboro Baptist Church. First of all, if the only thing you did right in your life was get picketed by Westboro.
That's why those are the first two things in my bio. I'm they're both just, they kind of tells you all you need to know about me.
You're living right, man.
True honor.
He's a Drama League nominated actor, comedian, and broadcaster who's hosted many TV shows and podcasts, including the acclaimed Tell Me Everything series on SiriusXM Progress. He's gotten George Harrison to give his final performance on VH1, debated Jerry Falwell and David Duke. I thought they were the same guy. And made many appearances on MSNBC, Fox News, and CNN. Recently, I just saw you on The Daily Show, by the way, which was epic. His epic PBS road trip film on the American Dream called Dream On, directed by Roger Weisberg, was named Best Documentary at the New York Independent Film Festival. He lives in New York City with his family. His latest book is called Separation of Church and Hate. He's been on a bit of a promotional spree. I've seen you just about everywhere lately promoting this book, which is awesome. The title, again, Separation of Church and Hate, A Sane Person's Guide to Taking Back the Bible from Fundamentalist Fascists and Flock-Fleecing Frauds. Say that 4 times real fast.
I'm always impressed when any host of any show will actually go for the subtitle. You have my admiration, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I am enamored of anyone who uses that many F words.
I put a lot of F words in my Bible book. Yes, they're all there.
Any Bible book without a significant amount of F words, I don't even bother with. I mean, you just left out such an important part of the language.
I hope you'll judge mine by its cover then. Thank you.
Yes. So are you telegraphing with that subtitle that there are multiple other F words included? Or maybe
I'm telegraphing to that title that it's going to upset exactly the right people. That's what I'm telegraphing to.
Let me ask you a quick question, and we'll just jump right in. But here's something I've noticed that's driving me crazy. People don't tend to know what fascism is.
Yes.
They throw it around like, it's a very nice little insult. And then when you ask them to define it, which I do often,
Yes.
they stumble and go, blah, 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 blah. Same thing. I can't really define socialism either. But in your opinion, does the current administration and white nationalism in general neatly fit? I think fairly neatly fits inside that category of fascism.
Yes, I don't think the president himself does, as I don't think he has any ideology beyond me.
True.
I don't think he is a fascist because I don't think he believes in anything beyond getting sex, getting compliments, getting money, getting power. I think that's it. So he's the hood ornament on this car that is crashing into the peaceful village marketplace. But yeah, I mean, Mussolini defined fascism as corporate control of government. So I think if you apply Mussolini's standard to what we're seeing right now, especially with tech bros firing people because they have not been elected to anything, especially when you consider the authoritarian bent and that the majority of American citizens who've shown up to vote have voted against Donald Trump and his agenda in 3 consecutive elections. The majority voted against him in 2016, 2020, and in 2024, he did not crack 50%. There is no mandate. So, I mean, we have to remember that a number of ultra-conservative fundamentalist religious people aligning with authoritarian government is literally what killed Jesus.
Yeah.
And that's literally what America's up against now.
No, it's nuts. And there's that ultra-nationalist sort of bent to all of it as well.
Which is blasphemy. And again, in a religion about humility, like it's so simple. I mean, Jesus's whole message is humility and servant leadership, and the last will be first, and uplifting the marginalized, uplifting those who are beneath you, not total right-wing domination of the school board. And you'll always know the fundamentalists and Christian nationalists because they're not talking about the less fortunate. They're talking about why they need to be in power. Because their creed is power. They don't care about the teachings of Christ. They don't care about religious freedom. They care about conservative Christian control over society. And they don't really care if that Christian control has anything to do with the actual teachings of Christ, most of which they now call woke. And that's why I wrote this book.
Which is such a apt pejorative, is it not? It's like, oh, you're also woke. But I can't remember it might have been Leonard Cohen. That's the name that sticks in my mind. But as a Jewish man opining about the state of American Christianity, I think it was Leonard Cohen who said something to the effect of, you can tell, like, why are they so, and again, I'm paraphrasing, but hell-bent on putting the 10 Commandments up in schools and public spaces, and you've never once seen them fight to put the Sermon on the Mount anywhere.
Never. No teachings of Christ.
No teachings of Christ. We want to hone in on these 10, which are honestly quite shitty.
Well, I mean, Donald Trump's violated all 10. He's broken all 10 of them. So when you're fighting to put this up in schools, you're fighting to tell your kids not to take their parents' religion seriously and not to take these 10 Commandments seriously. Because if you take the 10 Commandments seriously, you can't support a man who's broken all 10 and wags his junk at them. I mean, even graven images, you can make the argument. And he killed more federal prisoners than any president in 100 years. Yeah. I mean, death penalty is one of the things Christ is most starkly opposed to. Coveting thy neighbor's wife. This guy's whole rap sheet. So it's
that one kind of writes itself.
And to say nothing of the fact that 3 of the commandments are illegal according to our First Amendment. So, I mean, they don't go together. And Christians follow a guy who will reduce them to 2. But you'll never see a conservative Christian organization fighting to put Jesus's reduced to 2 commandments or the Beatitudes or Matthew 25 or any Jesus quotes on the side of a building, because Jesus's quotes are as much a threat to authoritarian power now as they were 2,000 years ago. He's a mascot. They'll worship him. They'll praise him. They'll pray to him. They won't listen to him. They won't follow him, and they won't fight for his policies.
You're not wrong.
I was noticing how, I feel like worship music is becoming a Trojan horse of sorts, that they can bring this level of authenticity of Christian faith, and it seems humility is in the forefront while they're worshiping, and yet at the same time, it's being used to destroy the witness of Christ in the world.
And there's a narcissism to a lot of it too. Oh, Father, I'm so devout. I'm so humble. Can you people believe how goddamn humble I am? I'm amazed at how humble I am. Oh my God. I mean, Jesus warns us in Matthew 6:5 not to trust the people who are praying in public to be seen. There's so much great gospel music and great classical music, so much great religious music out there, but we all know these bands that violate "Thou shalt not suck." We know those bands are all out there. And it's a lot of, oh, Father, oh, look at me. Jesus warns you in Matthew 6:5 not to trust the guy who's praying outside the synagogue to be noticed. When I see Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House, leading a bunch of guys on one knee in prayer, not in a private office, but in the well of the house, in front of the cameras, I think to Matthew 6:5 all the time. Jesus warned us about this guy, and then he gives us the words of the Our Father. But before he teaches the Our Father, he says, when you pray in secret, as your Father is in secret. So that's what prayer is. It's your communion with God, not somebody's really thirsty public audition for America's Next Top Christian. And so I love a lot of spiritual music as well. But yeah, a lot of it is just, oh, look at me. I'm your favorite, God. And again, what's the thing that's always been the most destructive to true Christian faith in America is the vanity, the elitism, the I'm better than you. I mean, Christian nationalism by definition is against Jesus.
Yeah, can you tell me the difference between how you would define Christian nationalism and how you would define being a patriot in our country?
Wow. I mean, sure. A patriot is God bless America, and a Christian nationalist, God bless America, and fuck you. I mean, that's the shortest way of doing it. Yeah, but
that's helpful.
And by the way, God bless America, meaning God likes us better, and we can do whatever the hell we want, and we're not encumbered by anything because we're better than you, because God clearly likes us better. That's fundamentalism. And that's, fundamentalists of all religions are the ones who are ruining all religions.
Yeah.
They don't think they're better than you. They know God thinks they're better than you. And that's in Islam and Judaism. And I wrote this book because I found that it's the same kind of guys. And the further to the right you are, I'm not talking about nice conservative Christians. This book is so pro nice conservative Christians, but even they'll have to deal with the haters sometime. But the more to the right your faith is, Islam, Christianity, the more I find the same 5 things happen. Women are always second-class citizens. I mean, Jesus is the biggest feminist in the Bible. He uplifts women. And if you believe that God loves us all equally, then God's a feminist. But fundamentalist movements of all Hinduism, the more to the right, the more women are God wants it this way. Number 2, the sex hangups. The more to the right your religion is, if women or gay people are enjoying sex, it's just for procreation unless a man has concubine, whatever. There's always some hypocritical bullshit. Number 3, the more to the right your religion is, violence is okay if my side does it, because I'm on the side of the one true God. And if you're opposing me logically, you're representing Satan. I'm not going to negotiate with Satan. But, this is fundamentalist in how they think. Again, Islam, hardcore right-wing Christianity. And then 4, always a focus on punishment over healing. Always. And 5, this penchant for victimhood. This narrative of persecution that justifies any mean or shitty thing I do because bad stuff was done to me. All of that is against the teachings of Jesus, but you'll find it's true in the fundamentalist wings of all the religions. And Christian nationalism, I think, is really an umbrella term that's encompassing many, many different kinds of Christian extremism. And lately we're just grouping them all under that term. But I think Christian nationalist and fundamentalist covers it all. And there are 2 groups that, again, fight for Jesus, but they don't want to listen to him. And they don't want to fight for anything he commands in Matthew 25. They oppose his actual commandments while waving him around as a prop.
Yeah. I think you used the term mascot at one point in your book.
Yeah. My book is funnier. I'm really preachy tonight. I'm sorry. My book is not just preachy, I promise.
Preach away, John. You had something, man. I cut you off.
Well, thank you.
Oh, I was just going to say that I think it was Matthew DeStefano who recently posted something about conservative Christians, and they should be the ones the most outspoken right now about what the fundamentalists are doing to their version of Christianity.
Look at what American Jews, how angry American Jews are at the fundamentalists in the Netanyahu government right now. But you're right.
They should be the ones the most outspoken. They should be the ones speaking out to the evils of these fundamentalists, right?
I agree.
Yeah, I have a friend who converted to Catholicism a number of years ago, and she is a very conservative person. And I was so surprised at how much she's been speaking out against that severe right-wing demographic. And And I had painted her into that same corner as like, well, she's conservative, so she must be there. And I was very surprised to see that. And I was also very convicted about my own judgmentalism that happens to live within me. But yeah, if we have more people.
Here in New York State, you get pretty used to like, oh, he's still a Republican. He's still a conservative. He's not a MAGA friend. And again, I every night I'm live on SiriusXM for 3 hours, and I always ask folks, I ask my callers who are pro-Trump to please give me one teaching of Christ that this administration fights for, or that your movement fights for. Just one chapter and verse, please. Yeah. And that's how you find out how little these folks know the Bible. And how little they're counting on us knowing the Bible. And number one's abortion, which, again, for 2 generations in this country, that has been the issue that they use to get followers of Jesus to vote against the things Jesus talked about by talking about something Jesus never talks about. And I'm not going to say the Bible's pro-abortion or that Jesus is a clinic escort on the weekends, but God never saw fit to condemn it. There's no penalty for ending pregnancies. Moses, Jesus, Elijah, the prophets, Paul, no one ever mentions it. God asserts in Exodus 21 a fetus is property and a woman's life has more value in his eye. God gives rather gruesome abortion tips for unfaithful pregnant wives in Numbers chapter 5. Let's talk about Passover with these Gentiles for how much God cares about the innocent little children. And at no point does Jesus ever say, thou shalt force rape victims to be pregnant by their stepdad, or that government should force citizens to be pregnant against their will. And this is why, and most of our Christian friends don't know this in the conservative circles, but abortions are legal and free in Israel right now because the Bible and Jesus' religion never banned them. And for 2 generations, since the Falwells and the ex-segregationists gave up on discrimination and latched on to abortion, Ronald Reagan went from signing the most liberal abortion law as a California governor to then becoming the biggest figure against it. This was a way they amassed power when segregation and Nixon collapsed. They latched on to criminalizing abortion and persecuting gay people. Even those 2 things have nothing to do with Jesus' ministry. But as Jesus outlines his big commandments in Matthew 25, the individuals and nations will be judged on welcome the stranger, care for the poor, care for the sick, and care for those in prison. We don't hear our right-wing Christian friends fighting for anything he actually said, but they're fighting viciously for stuff they've been taught to believe he said. And again, I'm not saying that the Bible's pro-abortion or you should be whatever. I'm saying it's not Christian. It's not Jesus. And I just wanted to get people reminded of what Jesus actually stands for, because the conservative machine, as I said, is all about power.
I had never heard that example of Tamar going to be stoned to death or killed for being pregnant out of wedlock or whatever. As an example of she was already 3 months pregnant, as an example of they did not care about the fetus that was living inside of her, growing inside of her. That blew my mind when I read that in your book. It was amazing.
Yeah. I mean, even Jesus, says when the end times come, woe to nursing mothers and pregnant women. Like they're not going to get special treatment either. Again, I'm not saying people should believe a fetus is whatever, believe what you believe. But in the Bible, in the Jewish faith, life begins with first breath. And that's the world that Jesus grew up in. And folks like to quote, who is it? On abortion, the Jeremiah, I knew you in the womb before you were born, I knew you. And it's a very beautiful passage, but it's God telling Jeremiah he was always destined to be a prophet. It's not God telling governments of men to force people to be pregnant against their will. And later in the same book, in Jeremiah's lament, he actually wishes that someone had killed him in the womb, which tells us this was a thing people did back then. Yeah. And no one in the entire Bible thinks to speak out against it once. Yeah. So again, it's just priorities. They prioritize stuff Jesus never talked about over everything he talked about. And if they wanted abortions to go down, they'd fight for more sex ed. They'd fight for better access to birth control. But it's about power. If they wanted border crossings to stop, they'd start locking up the white people who do all the hiring, who put up the wanted sign at our border. Felony, 1 year, you hire a nanny, a landscaper. They will never do that. No. They need the issue to get power.
Well, and the one thing that impressed me about Kamala Harris, and she wasn't a perfect candidate, and I just know we would be infinitely better off right now. Jesus.
Infinitely.
But people gave her hell about being the border czar, right, which she never was. But what she did do was start a conversation with several adjacent Latin American countries about, hey, what could we do to improve conditions in your country?
Yeah.
So people don't feel the need to flee to ours.
Yeah, the
How
problem
could we maybe economically...
Ending the drug war is should be item number one, but we're not allowed to say that.
Could we economically invest in countries like Nicaragua, El Salvador, Mexico, and discourage that migration? The people don't really want to leave their homes, man. People don't want to leave their homes.
But in those countries in Central America, they're fleeing violence from our drug war. I've got to stand up for the troops in Honduras and in El Salvador, and we have troops in those countries because the drug war is still going on. They're intercepting cocaine planes still.
Yeah,
like it's a racket, and the Air Force Base in Honduras is being eaten by termites because it was made of wood back in the 80s, and it was never supposed to last 40 years.
Right,
it's like we're still doing this, and again, they're putting people in jail for drugs. They're putting addicts in prison instead of giving them treatment that they need. And so it's also why I still have hope. If you had told me back in the 90s that we'd see legalized cannabis and gay marriage and a black president, I wouldn't have believed it. So I have so much faith that humans are getting kinder in so many ways.
Yeah, I sadly feel like those things are now going backwards, though.
Maybe.
Well, and we like to bomb boats off the coast of Venezuela. And,
with no evidence. Like
summarily execute people.
Normally, you get the guys and you have the drugs on the table and you lead it to a bigger fit.
And then you have a thing called, perhaps a trial where evidence is provided and you...
They want to murder people. They are murdering people. They are not Christ followers. The death penalty alone is like the starkest rejection of Jesus. Jesus overturns eye for an eye in the Sermon on the Mount, to say nothing of the fact that these people may be innocent. All their so-called drugs are vaporized in a second, and they're trying to do this to justify an American military presence in our city. So it's fascist. We're there. Like, I love these corporate news people wondering, are we on the road to No,
we're there.
ICE is zip tying children. Okay, we're there, and it's going to take true followers of Jesus standing up against this, because that's the only thing that's ever worked, right? The only thing that's ever worked against Christian authoritarianism has been Christ followers. St. Francis left the Crusades and opposed the war. The first act of a protest by a white person in this hemisphere was the Catholic priest on Columbus's mission, Bartolomeo de las Casas, who protested the way they treated the indigenous people. Slavery was propped up by Christians, and the Christ followers like Frederick Douglass and Harriet Tubman and the Quakers pushed back. Dietrich Bonhoeffer was a Christian martyr for his Jewish neighbors during the Holocaust. Segregation, that evil of apartheid, it's Dr. King standing up against it. And look at how many of us have talked our parents out of so much homophobia in the last 30 years. There's an incredible history of Christian activism, and it's always been Christians, Christ followers, pushing back against these batshit crazy Christians all throughout history. And we see it to this day. And it's like, look at all those civil rights. Look at labor, Dorothy Day and the Catholic worker movement against these corporate Christians, the people who fought back against the colonizer Christians, the Confederate Christians. And it's always been the people who actually follow the Jesus teachings rather than use the Bible for power. It's exactly the struggle we're in right now. And when you look at the history, it's really easy to see which side you want to be on.
Yeah. Damn.
Ooh, so good.
Preach, brother, preach.
Sorry, I'm going on the air tonight for 3 hours, and you guys are like my shot of Jack.
We're getting fired up.
You guys, you guys do a great show, and it's like, I can only imagine the spiritual journeys that y'all have had to come to the place where you're at, and what that means when Jesus says you got to pick up your cross and follow me. It's not this prosperity gospel bullshit. You're going to get stuff. If you're going to get stuff because you're so on. I mean, Jesus is saying, when I brought a sword, he's saying, when you walk this path and of love and looking out for the least of us, you're going to give something up. People are going to cut you loose. They're going to call you woke. They're going to call you a martyr. Yeah. They're going to call you a communist. It's not easy.
To be fair, I would have stayed in the prosperity gospel stuff if the shit worked. But I never got prosperous. So I might still be there if they were like, man, if you tithe 10%, you're going to get 100-fold return. I might still be there going, shit, $10 more and I can get it,
And those guys are not Christian nationalists. And I say this in the book.
No, they're just charlatans.
They're just grifters and frauds, because nowhere does Jesus says you're going to get something because you pray so hard.
Right.
Jesus is about what you do and what you give, not what you get. And this is the same junk theology that Jerry Falwell used to preach, of just saying, well, because if you're saying, if you have material riches, it's because God likes you. Well, you're also messaging, if you fall on hard times, it's because you're spiritually deficient.
Yeah,
and so we're shaming people for their own hard times and suffering, and I can't stand it for that reason.
Yeah, but we've criminalized poverty forever.
Yeah, Jesus talked about this too. Like, he talked about that we are making it so the rich seem like they are more blessed by God than the poor. So I think his entire Sermon on the Mount, especially the Beatitudes, was flipping that whole paradigm on its head.
Amen. Amen.
Well, to be fair, again, if you take Christianity seriously, then capitalism is bullshit.
They don't really coexist. It's like
they can't.
You can't really have a society with poverty and billionaires, and you can't really have this kind of capitalism and Christianity.
I mean, you've got all these people.
Acts of the Apostles is a blueprint for opt-in communism. I mean, you want to go there.
No, I'm down with that. I say down with the system. John Turney, I cut you off again, man. I'm sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say that, and there's also the end times theology, right? And that's another carrot, being that dangled in front of you. And it's a group of people that, because they are quote unquote born again, they're the ones that are going to be in heaven. They're going to walk the streets of gold, walk through the pearly gates, have the mansions,
Oh, it's all me, all me.
Mm-hmm.
I get to go behind God's velvet rope. The Jews, not them.
No.
Right? No. The Jews, half of them are going to die, and then the other half are going to be forcibly converted because we love them that much. But me, I get to go beyond. I'm going to float in the sky, and I know already. It's so simple.
Right.
Like because it doesn't matter my deeds, doesn't matter how much I follow Christ. I accept Him. The narcissism. I had to cut my rapture chapter out of my book, and I was so mad because it's in many ways it's harmless. It's really a business, and it's really how they prey on gullible people who don't have faith, but they want proof. They want to know that somehow I'm special and I'll matter. Whether it's Hal Lindsey and the Late Great Planet Earth, or the Left Behind books. But I mean, the belief in this inherently gives an us versus them mentality, right?
Yeah, for sure.
We are cosmically superior because we're chosen, and those of you who did not share our beliefs will not be surviving the big day. And it's all a scam based on Bible fan fiction, because the rapture doesn't even appear in the Bible. John Darby, 1850, British pastor, makes up the term. It's all made up. And it's another thing these people do to give themselves an excuse to not follow Jesus' instructions about how to treat each other. They just look for any way they can avoid Jesus' simple instructions.
Well, and the most grotesque versions of that need conflict in the Middle East, because that is what ushers in all of this. So they cheer a genocide in Gaza because, man, these are the signs of the times. Jesus is coming back. We've had a couple of failed rapture predictions. I'm up to my second punch card on missing rapture. I'm due a free gift of some kind.
And again, scaring people with rapture talk has nothing to do with Jesus or salvation. They do it for conversion, and all this Antichrist stuff. I mean, the Antichrist is just anyone who doesn't believe Jesus is the Messiah, which could be anybody. I mean, they really don't like the fact that Book of Revelation is the one part that really describes Jesus as looking like a black man. They gloss over that part pretty quick. And that it's probably not the Apostle John. It's this other guy, John, tripping his face off in a cave and writing down his hallucinations.
Right.
As fun and macho as it, and I talk about it a little bit in my chapter about macho douchebag Christianity, but it's got nothing to do with the teachings of Jesus, who kept saying, "Ye shall not know the hour nor the day." So why these people want to ignore Jesus and just focus on how I'm chosen?
Yeah.
I mean, that's one of the things I liked about growing up Catholic, was like, Catholics are like, screw you, dude. You accept Jesus. That's step one. Back of the line, bitch. And I always got respected that about the Catholics, like, it's not that easy. Let's see your good deeds every day. And then when you're dead, St. Peter will decide and measure it against your sins. And that's why I'm in therapy 5 times a week now. But still, it's still
Yeah, but under Protestantism, Jeffrey Dahmer gets saved on his deathbed and he gets to go hang out with Jesus.
That's the whole thing, right? So I say in the book, so like when they say atheists or Jews can't go to heaven, well, that's a homogenous little system you got there.
Sure.
Jesus said, "In my Father's house there are many mansions." But these people have decided that you can live a Christ-like existence, treat people exactly the way Christ teaches us to do, and burn in hell for all eternity because you're in the wrong God fan club. But a Nazi,
no problem,
who accepts Jesus as his savior, but does not live by the teachings of Jesus, gets to go to heaven along with all those misunderstood pedophiles, while Gandhi and Malcolm X and Anwar Sadat and the Dalai Lama and Pocahontas are burning forever in hell. That's literally the elitist, all-white gated community they believe the afterlife to be. And it's based on nothing Jesus says. It's based on their own fear.
I'd rather hang out with Gandhi in wherever he is than spend even 1 second with any of those people. And that would include many people living currently. So Stephen Miller, kiss my ass. I don't have any use for, like, literally. And that's the one thing. Well, I think I know we don't want to turn this into although it would be a fun, full on Trump, bitch session.
If you're ever speaking to me again after this, I can come back anytime. But yeah,
man, I would love to. Yeah, but it drives me crazy that we got a taste of what this was going to be a few years back, and why anyone thought it would be better.
Yeah.
Without the guardrails, and there were very few guardrails before.
After seeing cops beaten for a lie, enough people said this is acceptable. But
and then having those people pardoned. Oh yeah,
but Camp Auschwitz guy. Camp Auschwitz guy went home.
Yeah. What's this?
For a lie.
The shaman guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's actually suing Trump for I think it was $70 trillion. I think it's amazing.
But I mean, he extrapolate that. 20 years ago, they hated us because we were against the Iraq War and because we said that George and Bush and Dick Cheney's economic policies might not be good for America. And they hated us. And then the war was just a terrible, complete tragedy. And the occupation was nonstop bloodshed for years. And they crashed the housing market. They crashed the economy. And they hated us even more when we were proven right. And now they found a new Dr. Frankenstein to follow, but they'll never admit that they followed Bush. They'll never defend Bush and Cheney now. No. They hated us for telling the truth about it. Now it just never happened. So you should know these people are going to be denying they ever voted for Donald Trump more than once in about 10 years. Like these folks will be denying all of this. They will forget it and they will live in a cognitive dissonance where they only voted for Trump in 2016.
That's right.
I mean, like when we were kids and there was old guys defending Nixon, like, no, they're not going to do it. They're going to find some other right-wing guy they love and they will seriously dump Trump the way Trump dumps wives.
Well, under a Vance regime, you will no longer utter the word Trump. It'll be against the law.
It's going to be beautiful. It's going to be beautiful. Can you imagine?
I can't wait for
imagine that doughy, amoral eyeliner model trying to get these fascists to get in line behind him? Do you think these MAGA people are going to like this kid? Ugh.
You're on that podcast, I've Had It podcast.
Yes, sir.
And they call them all smoky eyes, don't they? I think that's how they refer to Vance. They've got nice nicknames for everybody. They call them old smoky eyes and Kankles McTaco Tits. I think is what they call them.
Nice. I call Trump comb over Caligula myself, but I try to find good names for all these people.
I was going to call him Orange Julius just because I thought that was a little shout out to a Roman Caesar.
Nice.
And
nice.
Orange.
Very nice. Although I don't know who the Brutus and Cassius would be to take that Caesar out.
I'm praying there's a Brutus somewhere.
No. It's going to be the billionaires that do it. Here's the deal. We keep waiting for MAGA to wake up and realize it's the billionaires. They don't need this guy anymore.
No.
Okay. This guy, they got their unholy, godless tax cut. They got their crypto loophole. They got their deregulation to pollute and poison the air as much as they want. And as soon as that was done, the Epstein files were everywhere. And Rupert Murdoch, who owns Fox, published a story about the birthday card in the Wall Street Journal. And Donald Trump sued him for $22 billion. And the very next day, Rupert Murdoch laughed at his lawsuit and released that Trump was told back in May he's in the Epstein files. Rupert Murdoch is laughing off Trump lawsuits for $22 billion because Rupert Murdoch is a real billionaire who didn't just make all of his money this year off a crypto scam. And these people who own the country's landlords, they don't need this nonsense. The tariffs aren't helping them. Persecuting the low-wage workforce that our economy's propped up by doesn't help them. They're taking birth control and abortion away from women. Wall Street doesn't need that. Wall Street doesn't sign up for that nonsense. They don't need this. They are done with this guy. Tech bros are done with this guy. He's an embarrassment. There's stuff in my fridge that'll last longer. And the Republicans in the House and Senate are starting to realize it because Trump couldn't help them in 2018. He couldn't help them in 2022. And he's not going to help them next year. Not with the Epstein files and the tariffs and the inflation going up. I mean, we're going to witness more and more Republicans start to put space between themselves and this guy. And I just wrote the book to put space between Christianity and this movement.
Yeah, I think that's very important.
So what does hope look like in all of that? Or what does it look like for us to even still be human when it feels like we're part of
so much. No. Hope looks like every MAGA person who wakes up and realizes that they've been scammed, like a Trump University student or a Trump Foundation donor or a Trump wife. Every time someone wakes up from the Matrix and realizes this whole thing was a scam by a rich playboy with no values who's been bullshitting us all the way through life, we don't meet that with smug liberal I told you so. It's the prodigal son story. The guy is so happy that his fuck up son has finally come home. He's not going to waste time punishing him and saying, you were wrong. We have to celebrate every time people wake up, and we have to be prepared to make alliances with people that we might not want to. I mean, I'm not a Democrat, but I've never seen so many people hate each other so much because they only agree with each other on 85% of stuff. It's ridiculous. But I think atheists and people of faith and Muslim groups and Jewish groups and interfaith groups have to band together to beat back the batshit crazy Christians. Because again, Christianity is just, it's not their creed, it's their camouflage. And we have to take it away. The politicians aren't going to do it. Democrats are too scared to point out how they don't really follow Jesus, and the media is not interested. It's going to take us reminding our relatives and our social media people and everyone that hate's not a Christian value, and that these guys don't really speak for Jesus, and taking the movement back, because I'm tired of watching my mom and dad's religion used as a cover for cruelty.
I really enjoyed the introduction to your book, talking about your Christian upbringing. Made me a little jealous because mine was not that.
Raised by two celibates? I mean, people who took a vow of celibacy?
For all I know, my parents were celibate after my sister became as quite a shock to everyone, I think including them, like, holy shit, we had sex that one time. But I have watched, I don't know how you've probably had some conversation with folks. John and I are brothers. We have watched our parents, my dad in specific, sort of spiral into deep MAGA country over the last 10 years.
And yet he raised you guys. Yet he raised you.
And my sister, who's way left of John and I, probably.
Right? And like God bless them. I'm sorry they're going through this right now. I think circumstance will draw them out of it. But God bless them for raising you righteous Caucasians at a time when this country needs righteous Caucasians.
Amen to that.
No, I'm serious. I'm a fan of good white people. Well, good white people are going to save this guy. I love the good white people. I'm sorry. I just want to be. I want to be able to say at the end of it all that I was somebody who marched on Selma with Dr. King, not somebody holding a fire hose. That's beautiful.
And I cannot stand idly by. My queer friends need me. Let's talk about that issue right now, because you make a really good point about that in your book. Another thing that Jesus said not a goddamn thing about.
Well, I actually, if you get to the LGBTQ chapter, I have a couple of instances where I would argue Jesus was totally fine with gay men, only because he was, and homophobia is an insult to Jesus. Homophobia of any kind is a violation of the Sermon on the Mount, and the problem that homophobes have is you have these anything but Jesus Christians, and Jesus will not sanction their homophobia. So they've either got to go back to Leviticus, which they don't believe in, don't follow, don't live by. None of these guys are kosher, or they got to go forward to Paul and his mistranslations, but they'll ignore the rest of Paul, the stuff they don't want to follow. It's the anything but Jesus Christian dilemma, because Jesus will not sanction their anti-gay nonsense.
Yeah, I can think of I think of the quote that Jesus talks about the eunuch. And says, that makes the point that there are some who've been, and scholars that I have read.
They never explain that in church.
Never. But scholars that I've read have opined, and I think very well, that term is very much a euphemism and a catch-all for anybody sort of outside of the spectrum of whatever, quote unquote, normal.
Can I tell you what it is? Can I tell you what it is?
Go for it.
Quick. I'll try not to be too preachy on this one, but I love it because the right-wingers are using Matthew 19 to argue against gay marriage, right? That's the new thing. Jesus opposed gay marriage because Matthew 19 is where he says, male and female, he made them, and man shall leave his parents and cleave, blah, 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 right? Mike Huckabee, they all love this. The reality is that Matthew 19 is not Jesus talking about gay marriage. It's Jesus coming out against heterosexual divorce.
Exactly.
And back then in the day, it was not a good time for women. I'd say it's like the gospel according to Ike Turner. If your husband was tired of you, he could just kick you to the curb and say, I divorce you. And that was it. And if a woman didn't have family to go live with, it was prostitution or begging to survive. All right. It was bad. And Jesus is this insane feminist who comes along and changes all these rules in ways they don't teach us as kids when they teach us these stories, what the laws of, when he's teaching Mary and Martha's upset because she's cleaning, we don't know that it's illegal to teach women, and Jesus was breaking the law to teach her. They don't teach us this stuff as kids. So Matthew 19, they say to Jesus, about divorce, and he says, look, you guys under Moses, your hearts were hardened. But if you divorce your wife for any reason other than she's cheated on you, then you're an adulterer and you've made her an adulterer. The only sexual sins Jesus ever comes out against is adultery and dumping your wife. That's it. That's it, right? So then, after Jesus gives the new divorce laws, and even the apostles are like, well, if that's the law, it's better not to get married, because we got to like that you can dump your wife as soon as you get bored of her. And then Jesus says these laws apply to everybody except three groups of people. Three people that these new laws that Jesus is giving as part of his new covenant, overturning the Old Testament law on divorce, okay, because that's what Jesus did. He reformed from within. He fulfilled. He didn't obliterate, but he did change it. He says there's three groups of people this doesn't apply to, and he uses the umbrella term eunuchs. And here's where it's going to blow people's minds. Learn this story, and you will blow people's minds at parties forever. So the three types of guys my new divorce laws don't apply to are the three types of guys that are never going to be marrying women. And he says men who were born eunuchs, men who were made eunuchs by men, and men who became eunuchs for the greater glory of God. Going backwards, he's talking about men who will never get married include guys who became celibate for religious reasons, the greater glory of God. And then men who've been made eunuchs by men, that's men who are castrated. They will never be married. And the first group is eunuchs who were born eunuchs, men who came out of their moms, and you just know they're never going to be marrying women. These three groups of guys, these divorce laws don't apply to, because these three kinds of guys are not going to be marrying women. The guys who are born, not going to be marrying women. And then Jesus goes off to pray with some kids, and everyone knows what he's talking about, and it's not a big deal because Jesus is not a dick. The end. That's it. I mean, he says gay men are born that way. Yeah. I didn't write. And they try to use this to say that Jesus is against gay marriage when he's really coming out against heterosexual divorce. And these are men who support Donald Trump, my friends. So they don't even believe what they're talking about. When they try to use Matthew 19 against gay marriage, say, do you oppose heterosexual divorce?
Right. Your dear leader doesn't. He's quite a big fan. Well, and then it dovetails nicely then with also the story of the first conversion, which is the Ethiopian eunuch.
Oh, yeah. I mean, even people without a sexuality. Like I go into transphobia is a sin to God. But Philip is the one, one of the first deacons, and he meets an Ethiopian eunuch in Gaza. That sentence alone would scare most preachers on the TV.
That's your woke agenda.
Ethiopian eunuch in Gaza. Like, my God, I could just see the DEI flares. But this is someone with no sexuality. And they meet on the road, and they talk about the gospel, and the guy knows that he can't be baptized because that's under Hebrew scriptures. You can't enter temple if you've had your member cut off or if your testicles have been crushed. That's the rule. No sexuality, you can't be close to God. And Philip says, before he can say, let me find some water, he baptizes the guy right there on the spot, because that's what the early church was. The early church was grounded in diversity, equity, and inclusion. And that's the story of the Ethiopian eunuch in Gaza. And you will never hear this talked about by any of our conservative Christian friends.
It's almost as if Philip had heard the words of Jesus and took them to heart.
I mean, it's not like they're not written down somewhere.
What a concept. Yeah, that was, I think, for John and for Bethany and myself, I don't pretend to speak for them, but for us, part of what began a journey for us was this weird, hard line the church drew in the sand with our queer family and friends. It's like, right? Of all the fucking places you decided.
And based on what? Based on what? Leviticus?
Yeah.
Paul? It's all rubbish.
Come on, man. Well, and many, we've had a couple really, 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 and maybe one or two more reallys, highly regarded Pauline academics and scholars on the show who will tell you all about which books that we've ascribed and attributed to Paul are not actual Paul.
But I mean, but even then, we don't know. It doesn't matter. Paul is Paul, right? This is the book we got, and he says women can't talk in church in one letter, and then 2 pages earlier he's saying that women can be deacons. Like it all contradicts. But Paul's not talking about consensual men. I mean, in Romans, Paul's talking about straight Romans who are worshiping animal gods, and God made them hook up with other guys. God gave them over to this. So that's forced by, I believe. He's talking about straight guys, not gay guys. These guys are partying. And Paul was grossed out by these guys partying, and that's the story. It's not Jesus saying Anderson Cooper's a bad man. Like it's literally they're looking for any reason to get around the commandments of Jesus, to love the lowest people as you would treat Jesus. That's it.
And it's because if we keep the righteous indignation pointed onto queer people or women in ministry or abortion or whatever it is, then we don't actually have to take care of the poor. We don't actually have to see the economic disparities and what feeds our country in capitalism. Like, we get to ignore it and just keep going on in our life because we feel good about ourselves because we're being bold with the gospel by calling out sin.
And fascism 101 is just like religious authoritarianism. I mean, look at bin Laden. Like you have the charismatic religious figure who tells you that your problems are coming from this group, this minority that didn't actually cause your problems, right? The Jews are doing it, or the gays are doing it, or the trans kids playing sports are doing it, or the migrant workers are doing it. And only I can restore our land to what it used to be. Only I can handle this tiny minority that's a terrible existential threat to all of us. And we've seen it work, and not just in Germany. And now you're seeing undocumented workers and trans kids have their moment in the crosshairs. But, 10, 15 years ago, it was all Muslims, right? When we were kids, it was women who wanted abortions and feminists. And the 2004 election, they were losing on Iraq. There were no WMDs. They lied us into war. Body bags were coming home. So they made the entire re-election about gay marriage and how the traditional American family is under threat. And if they get what we have, we're going to lose something. And they used religious bigotry that was the opposite of Jesus to get reelected after lying us into war. So I'm not surprised when I see what Trump can talk these people into. But I do know that these guys are incompetent and they fail. And I do believe that most of us want to be good in our hearts. And I just feel like we have to keep modeling that kind of leadership and be afraid to, we may have to turn the other cheek a few times. I don't believe in hating them back. But we have to beat these people with nonviolence and with scripture and hopefully humor.
Dang, so good. It's such an important word.
Nonviolence. I'm a nonviolent guy at heart, but I struggle with this.
I like fake violence and real peace.
Yeah,
I'll watch violent movies all day, but
John Wick's a masterpiece. I'm just going to tell you.
It's great. I'll do it all day. Yeah, but I don't. I think Jesus is so direct about it, and the whole amazing thing about the Sermon on the Mount is that, like, he's breaking the concept of retributive justice. I mean, turn the other cheek is like the end of the debt. It's like, I don't care what they did to you, and I don't care how much you deserve it. It stops here. How much do we want to see someone in the Middle East from either side show up and announce this? The violence stops. The hate stops here. This is my new covenant. I'm planting this flag. I compare him in the book to Travolta and Get Shorty. He's like, I'm the guy telling you how it is. And people didn't want to hear this. They wanted to hear how you're going to overthrow Rome. And he came out there and said, bless your oppressors. Talk about a tough room. But he was so consistently anti-violent. And it wasn't until the Crusades that they needed to turn the movement into a pro-violence movement that oppressed pagans and Jews and Muslims. So that's when all this bullshit Deus Volt and Jesus with a sword came in that they still romanticize to this day. And they rationalize, well, we can do the opposite of Jesus and slaughter people as long as we force Jesus on the survivors. And that has been the great hypocrisy of Christianity. And it's fucking Hegseth with his Deus Volt and his white supremacy tattoos. And it's like, that's not Jesus. That's the Crusades. That's the opposite of Jesus. Jesus is the one with all those trite, boring, unsexy commandments about nonviolence and loving your enemies. Again, just watch any Hegseth speech. They love to talk about Jesus, but they hate his teachings. And they will call you woke and every other nasty slur they have, because for my whole lifetime, these Christians, anytime someone tries to do Christ-like things, every year they get a new slur. In the 70s, when I was a kid, it was always a bleeding heart liberal. Mm-hmm. And then in the 80s, you're like, hey, maybe let's use nicer language and not be cruel dicks to people. Oh, you're politically correct. And then it was social justice warrior. And I'm like, you mean like every good Christian in history that we learn about in schools? And then it was the virtue signaling snowflake. And now, of course, it's woke. They took a word that was about awareness of racism and they've weaponized it. And now it's a slur against anybody who's anti-racism. Woke is a word used by people who are a lot more mad at Colin Kaepernick's knee than they're mad at Derek Chauvin's knee, if you know what I'm saying. It's weaponized to be a slur against, and their greatest anger is not for discrimination. They hate anti-discrimination policies. That's how they have backloaded white supremacy into the minds of so many of our right-wing neighbors.
Yeah. Well, and for so many of them to have said they were done with the NFL, then I'd be really pissed off about Bad Bunny performing at the Super Bowl.
And it's like,
I thought you weren't watching the halftime shows anymore because you stopped watching when Kaepernick knelt at the. But this, I mean,
how many young people are going to learn because of this that Puerto Rico really is America? And
how many adults are going to learn this?
Well, of course, how many adults are going to learn it? I mean, a lot of adults a lot of conservatives only learned it when Trump, went to Puerto Rico after the hurricane and insulted all people. It's like they don't know. So it's like, this is going to be so good against racism. I love seeing artists I love, but I also love seeing, Jennifer Lopez and Shakira freak the right people out.
It was great. And guess who was on that show with them?
I forget who was on with them.
Bad Bunny.
Bad Bunny, yeah. Well,
he did it 5 years ago.
When Dr. Dre came out with Kendrick Lamar and with Mary J. Blige and
it was phenomenal.
It was fantastic. That one made my top 3. My top 4. But yeah.
Top 4, it's got to go. That one's in there. Prince, obviously.
Prince is number 1.
U2 was fantastic.
Is number 2. I would put the West Coast hip hop tribute, and then I put Kendrick Lamar number 4.
Kendrick's was, and I was so surprised because I'm really not a big hip hop guy. It was so well put together, and it pissed so many people off. I had to love it.
There's so many great websites about every Easter egg in that.
And there were
every single little reference meant, and an American flag made out of the backs of black men. That's how we opened it. Like the choreography alone was some of the most political stuff I've seen. So God bless the NFL. And again, let's thank them as well, because the NFL stood up to Sinclair, these revoltingly fake Christians who lied after Mr. Kirk's murder and lied that Kimmel had. First, they lied and said that Kimmel had made a joke. Then they lied and said Kimmel had said that he's one of theirs. I mean, they lied about the stuff Kimmel said. ABC never apologized for anything Kimmel said, but the unsung hero is Monday Night Football for standing up to Sinclair and Nexstar and saying, you don't want to carry this entertainment show, then you don't get football. And that's what made them back down. I will always, when look at who our heroes are these days, like Disney and Monday Night Football and the Catholic bishops and Harvard University. I mean, all kinds of unlikely people are showing a lot of bravery now, and I got to praise it wherever I can.
Yeah.
We're getting Trumpy again. Sorry.
It's kind of hard. It's kind of hard to escape. It's like I live in the ocean, but I can't talk about the water. It is very much all around us all the time. So I think we need the relief of being able to poke fun.
We have to.
We have to, or we're all just I'm just gonna like curl up into a fetal ball and cry till 2026.
And I also wrote this book for the relief of just knowing you're not crazy, because I know so many people who were raised a certain way. And as a very young kid, I began seeing Falwell and Robertson on my TV, and I was like, this isn't like the Christianity I know. These people are just mad at women who have jobs, and they're mad at black people for wanting racism to stop. And I mean, so many people have just wondered what happened to that faith of love and empathy. And when you've got Ali Stuckey writing this toxic empathy, literally, like, look how they smear every generation, they find a way to smear the stuff Jesus says, because following those teachings about love is really fucking hard for some people, and they don't want to be bothered by it. They'd rather worship him. They'd rather praise him in public really loud. They don't want to do what he says. And
it's because they don't believe that Jesus is enough. There's like this sense, it's like this whole scarcity mindset that is in our minds that make us have to double down in our fears, unfortunately. And honestly, I feel like in many ways we've been gaslit, or we're being gaslit as followers of Christ who were raised with a certain way of understanding who Jesus was. And now so many of our families and our parents are not living what they've taught us. And that's
the sad part is these are the same people that raised us to follow Jesus.
Yes, I know.
That's one of the things that really hurts me. And I won't speak for Nat, but I'm going to say,
it's devastating to me
that the same person who taught me the words of Jesus is ignoring the words of Jesus. And
but you guys are doing this. Like, you guys are taking what he brought into the world, and you are pushing forward this goodness and this awareness and this empathy and this love. Like God bless your parents. I'm sorry they're in this place they're in right now. But I mean, the ministry is you guys. The gospel is you guys. The gospel is what you are doing from that. And your parents, whether they like it or not, have brought about beauty and witness and love and positive development for Christianity in this country because of what they instilled in you. I'm sorry that Fox News ate so many old white people's brains in the last 20 years. And I think a lot of them will break out of it at some point. But I mean, it's just, I don't know. It's just what they gave us you. And I know that we can't give up on these people.
Mm-hmm.
No.
It's up to us, and the Democratic Party is not going to do it. And the media is not going to do it. It
has to be one-on-one. And I'm always reminded of the scene in I can't remember which Lord of the Rings movie it was, but when they find the king of the Rohan and he's on his throne, and he's just
the second one.
He's just crusted over, and he's his mind is gone, and he's been having this guy whisper lies into his ear for all this And when he breaks out of it, it's like when there's this awakening, there's this Matrixy moment in Lord of the Rings where he's like, oh my gosh, maybe that's what they meant by woke. He woke the hell up. And so that's what I keep in my mind of the hopeful possibility for the future. But in the meantime, I am also tired of watching the faith that I was given, the faith that John and I have struggled to keep, be hijacked and be bastardized.
That's why I'm so inspired by your story, and it's like your parents put you in the world and they set you on this course, and I'm sorry that they got off of it, but you are redeeming them and you are redeeming their lives in ways that they do deserve. And look, I had dealings with Charlie Kirk, right? And he didn't like me. And it's so horrible. Like I'm so sad that I'm not going to get to debate him. I'm so sad that he's not going to get to grow. The one racist that they really hate on the right, the only racist they've been taught to hate is Robert Byrd, because he was a Democrat and a Klansman, and Joe Biden considered him a mentor. But Robert Byrd really was a Klansman, and he renounced racism and devoted his life to being a liberal and fighting for civil rights. He voted against the Iraq War. He voted for the Affordable Care Act. Like he supported women's rights. And when he died, the NAACP honored him for all he had done and how he had changed. That's the only guy they hate. The only racist they hate is the guy who stopped being racist, right? Here's what gets me about Charlie is that he's never going to get to do that now. Like, he's not going to get to see Trumpism collapse. He's not going to get to lose debates. I was a homophobic creep as a kid, and I was saved by a gay costume designer when I was 13 who smacked some sense into me. Charlie Kirk's never going to get to have a gay friend or a black friend or an immigrant friend or a transgender friend who opens his heart and opens his mind. And I don't need to ever say anything bad about his many comments because they're there on the internet. His death is guaranteed. Those comments will be famous forever. His kids will go up and they'll read them, and they'll know the kind of guy their dad was when they read it. And that's very sad because he didn't have a chance to actually do the stuff Jesus said. Instead of selling himself as being this Christian icon and that we should be on top, he missed out on a lot of love, but he wouldn't have gotten rich doing it. Charlie Kirk was paid a lot of money to normalize white supremacy to college students and young people in their 20s. And I think it's so sad that he's not going to get a chance to grow, and his story just makes me want to open my heart more. Because I'm sure when I'm old, my kid will find 45 things I'm awful that we didn't know were wrong at this year. So it's like politically correct generation rat bastards. So we all still have a chance to do more good, and that's the story I take away from the tragedy of Charlie's murder. Because I was really hoping another Republican on Republican crime. I thought maybe they'd get behind some gun safety with us, but nope. I thought one of their own, maybe they'll care now, but nope.
No, they're just going to blame trans folks, even though they had nothing to do with it. So
personal liberties matter more than American lives.
Well, and personal ironically, or how if it's a bit of an irony that was Charlie's, that was his ideology, and he's on record as saying as such that a few deaths every year is the price we pay.
Yeah, I disagree. I think he was wrong.
And absolutely, he was wrong.
Yeah.
And
we got to say it. I wish he was still here to be wrong.
We're going to have to someday reckon with the worship we have paid to our Constitution. And
it's not our Constitution; it's our entertainment. That's it.
It is. It's cloaked in that, but it's.
If they care to, and again, like the NRA, they don't support like 3D printed guns. It's all about money. It's all about profit. The NRA is just a lobbyist for the gun manufacturers at this point. And one thing I learned from liberal Christians was the concept of stewardship. And that part of that is looking out for people. And, it's a lot harder to prevent gun massacres in advance. It's very easy to say thoughts and prayers after another massacre. But people who say thoughts and prayers at this point don't think and don't pray. The reason why guns are the number one killer of children in this country over disease and car accidents is because enough Christian white people have decided that's acceptable.
Yeah, that's remarkably sad.
Not their freedom, it's their entertainment. They want civilians to have products that are designed to kill lots of humans really fast. And I don't think 20-something emotionally unstable males should have those. I think all guns and ammo should be free for all women, okay? But men have proven they're the gender that can't be trusted. Sorry. Look at the results. There's one group we can't trust with this hardware, and it's the Y chromosome. Sorry, guys. Ladies, I think guns and ammo should be free for every woman. You do that around the world, and you see how much this place straightens out in 50 years. That's all I'm saying.
We
There
design
you go.
guns that can read chromosomes, and you can't even pick one up unless you.
There you go, like James Bond in Skyfall. I love it.
There we go. Yeah, so you want to start. Then we've got after the. It's nuts to me, And I grew up around guns. I grew up liking guns. And
I'm not anti-gun.
I am anti-gun for me. I no longer. I think I have the one gun my father gave me. That's for sentimental reasons because he gave it to me. And that's all I have left. I got rid of my guns because I'm like that was a personal conviction for me. It just wasn't something I wanted to do anymore. But our reluctance, I think it was Jon Stewart. I watched him just destroy, and I can't remember who he was. He was being interviewed by somebody.
Yeah, I saw that for the Apple show, I think.
I mean, vote that guy into some office. I mean, it was the most succinct takedown that I've said. And it was essentially what you just said was, the number one killer of children between a certain age group is firearms. It's not even close. And it's not all these other things that we...
All of our allies have mental illness and violent video games and SSRIs and clinical depression. All of our allies have all that other factors. They don't have... And it's not the gun, it's the easy civilian access. I'm really down with... We should be able to tackle a mass shooter when he has to reload after 10 rounds. Like you know what? If you're shooting a mall full of people and you have to reload, I don't consider that an infringement on your freedom. You can reload for the next 10 rounds and then continue to shoot people. I mean, I think that's not taking too much away from the mass killing demographic, but that's who they're fighting for at this point. That's who they're fighting. They are fighting for the next Robin Westman. Remember that one? I know the name, the trans one that they hated, right? They're fighting for the next Robin Westman, the next Jorge Ramos, to have easy access to a machine that kills lots of people really fast, the Christians.
And they can keep blaming and deflecting.
Well, and every time you think it's the worst one, because Uvalde was horrific, and that was not far from where I live.
That was Salvador Ramos, and they still are fighting for the next one to have easy access to one of these machines.
I thought Vegas would wake people up, and for a half a second, we at least banned bump stocks, and then they repealed that.
But that's what they do. That's what they do, right? They find another issue to distract. So after North Carolina with Dylan Roof, they made it all about the Confederate flag should come down from the Capitol.
Right.
After the Las Vegas, which at the time they called the worst massacre in American history. It's the worst massacre of white people in American history. That's the Indians.
Let's not forget about,
But after that, another white guy with an AR-15, they made it all about bump stocks, right? I mean, and so every time now, can I make it about being transgender? Can I make it about Antifa? They don't want to talk about the guns and the access to the guns and the fact that the liberals they despise are the ones fighting to make it harder for the next Robert Westman or the next whoever this guy was last week to drive into a church and shoot people. They're making it easier.
I mean, the sad thing is there's such a plethora of examples to choose from. And we could talk about the same day Charlie was killed, that there was a school shooting in Colorado.
That's right.
We talk about the guy that drove up on a boat in North Carolina and fired into we talk about what happened in Alabama just a couple of days ago, where it was just
You make a pill that stops guys from snapping, and I'll say, okay, they can have military hardware as civilians, but until that pill comes out, I'm sorry, man. I'm a little more pro-life than these people.
I think puberty suppressants and cross-gender sex hormones until you've proven you have what it takes to be a man. So, we're all trans until someone decides otherwise.
I can't top that. You guys, I want to thank you so much for having me on the show. I'm so honored that you would have me, and I'd love to come back anytime. But it inspires me so much what you're doing. My mom, the nun, would have called what you do a ministry. And I just can't praise you and encourage you highly enough because it's going to take all of us trying to change this one heart at a time. I don't think there's anyone coming to the rescue. It's going to be all of us. And that's why I wrote this book, for everyone who cares about what Jesus actually stood for and would like to see that happen on earth as it is in heaven.
Amen. Amen.
Well, from the bottom of our hearts, I'll speak for all of us again. Thank you so much. At the risk of blowing smoke, it really has been an honor to have you here. You're somebody that we've all known and looked up to.
Oh, now stop! Now I'm getting mad. Don't do that.
So it was good. But I'm
a clown, sir. I was killed on CSI, sir. They found 40 balloons of coke in my stomach. Don't look up to that, please. You were supremely adequate. We appreciate showing up and not being, No, it was. But we will definitely link to all the stuff in our show notes. Make sure people know you're a fairly easy guy to find on the socials. I have a SiriusXM show every night, which I've got to go to now.
Yeah,
and then and then we're a free podcast every day called the John Fugelsang Podcast. I have a Substack, and my book is Separation of Church and Hate. And I'm just so honored that y'all would have me in here to go over my Catholic apostate ways and talk about Scripture. And I'd love to come back anytime. And I thank you for inspiring me.
Thank you for listening to This Is Not Church. Be sure to rate and review the podcast on your platform of choice. If you would like to partner with us, visit patreon.com/thisisnotchurch, where you will receive exclusive content such as early access to episodes, videos of upcoming episodes, and live Q&A sessions. Be sure to check out our Facebook group or follow us on Twitter and Instagram. All the links are in the show notes. We'll be back soon with another episode.